I was just going to go to sleep, but then I figured, let me take a stab at this SpaceX shuttle that Steven was talking about. What would be the purpose of that thing coming down to Earth? So here's what I found out just looking at, I took a look at one video, it's 5 hours ago. It said, it's an unmanned space shuttle. It's called 37B or X-37B. And it was up in space for 2 years now by itself. It's unmanned, so I believe it can carry passengers back up to space. It was up there for, wait a minute, so 2 years? Then one of them said 900 days. So that's a little over 2 years, ain't it? But it came down, and what it could possibly do is it can carry nuclear bombs and weapons of mass destruction. It can hit things from outer space. It can zoom in on it can zoom in on, I don't know, like Chase Bank, and it can just hit it from outer space, and or Liberty 1 and 2, or even the William Penn building, because wait, who owns it? Oh, America. Yeah. So it's American space shuttle. So it comes down here. It's landed by itself, and it can carry some heavy utility. What's that word? Utility? Yeah, heavy utility. And I think what that would represent is the fact that they said even China has one. So these are going to be those things that it'll be fire from heaven. And it seems like these space shuttles can just take off wherever they need to take off, go into outer space, zoom in on a target, and shoot it down from outer space, anywhere in the world. So it looks like that's coming, because Russia, what are these stories again? I keep forgetting what Putin's saying when he does updates on what's going on. I don't know, Ukraine and that bridge that was blown up, and I think Russia was saying that they built it, but you'll never get a straight answer from anybody. This is just escalating the wars and rumors of wars that's written in the Bible. Be not troubled. See, all these things must come to pass. So this destruction is literal. It already took place in spirit, behind the scenes. It did that first. And then now it's time for the literal in the world, so everybody can see it. And in the Bible, Philadelphia is the only church that has a little bit of strength, as if something got attacked, and then likewise the angel in spirit gets attacked and has a little strength, because there's no real it doesn't look like there's any help, even though there is, because there's spaceships coming from outer space landing in America. It looks like help's on the way. But isn't America supposed to be destroyed? Like the system itself? So because Jacob Israel was talking about Andrew, and it reminded me of Andrew from Sons of Fire Ministry, God's Word, I was binge watching so I can get some clips when he was talking to, Jamie the Wabbit. talking to Jamie the Wabbit. And he was sticking up for me a lot. Never was disrespectful. But that was the time where everybody started turning. I don't remember when his channel disappeared, but he's still up because he periodically takes the videos down and puts them back up. So I'm glad he put them back up so I can binge watch, go back in time and get some information that's really good. So it's like Simon Peter Andrew, his brother, and then I really got to catch up on The Chosen to remember who you guys are, who all came to Jesus after he rose from the dead and the second time around. But it seems like it's the first, but it's thou must prophesy again. So it's the second time around, rising from the dead. He already rose up. But there's also crucifixion coming too. It's most likely the channels itself shutting down and then rising back up after the fact. So when Jacob talks about Jacob's ladder and the trouble, Jacob's trouble, wrestling with God, wrestling with the Father, which is what Andrew was saying earlier. He was talking a lot about Jacob's trouble, as in a great tribulation for Jacob. Remember, Derek Bros like, well, Jacob, you're in trouble. And also, Jacob was showing you that 30-year-old dude that basically is, what is he, conquering the world or something? Or he's just so super rich, like 30. And Stephen James Sean said that Jesus isn't coming back until his son Jacob is 33. So how old is he? In his 30s? And because everybody's in face mask anyway, and the number 30 doesn't necessarily mean 30 years old. It could just be 3, like 3-year process that had already started. Then I'm thinking, well, let's see, what are the possibilities of all these people on YouTube that have paid me a tremendous amount of attention? All these people. I remember when Andrew was doing group text, he said like there was like 19 of us at one point. I gathered up a bunch of people. It was pretty cool at the time because I had a bunch of friends that I could talk to about things, and yeah, I was still immature and waking up and stupid, not realizing everybody's in on the inside, and there's evil, there's good and evil, good cop, bad cop. So Andrew was good cop, and Matthew was bad cop. And then so Andrew was talking a lot about the Judases. All of a sudden, everybody that was flipping after me, flip-flopping, where Derek from McGlop was getting new furniture and I think new buildings. And is that Ryan Hall, y'all? Is that what happened? Did you not think I was going to catch up to you? You wait till I catch up to you. I wonder if Derek from McGlop Truth thought I would never find him if that was him, Ryan Hall, behind that mask that Derek Bro showed me. Probably purposely to show me him, because he disappeared. But anyway, people were turning against me, so they were playing the Judas role. They were taking the gifts and the silver. And Andrew was telling you need to throw it back in the streets. I can't wait to hear Andrew get back up again and start preaching, if that's part of the script. Him and his brother, Simon Peter. I just didn't think that it's like anybody whose name is in the Bible, you're not that person. Well, what if you are that person? What if one person, like Jacob Israel, was supposed to be named that, and he is that, and or he's just Jacob's son? Because I did hear, because if you're like 30 years old, it kind of reminds me of Alexander the Great, who conquers everything at the age of what, 33 or 30, and then it just gets distributed to, I think, the four winds of heaven, if I'm not mistaken. He comes in, conquers everything, and then it's like, oh, what's next? So, what I started thinking was, well, let's see. If Stephen James was talking about his son Jacob being 30-ish and Christ isn't returning until he's 33, and saying in a couple years, 2025, 2024, then what if he was referring to Jacob Israel playing like his role? Because didn't Steve wrestle with an angel from the beginning? Because yous are all fallen angels, right? So didn't he wrestle with the spirit for quite some time, as Jacob would? It can go so many different ways. I can't wait to find out all the ways that it goes, but if I can take guesses at it, then if I'm right, I'll get a confirmation somehow from somebody. I like Steve Manoon's confirmations, because when he name drops somebody, or when he confirms something from another person I'm talking about, I really appreciate that, because he reminds me of the Abraham, the father of the godfather of all the people that are in on this end times Bible prophecy being fulfilled on YouTube. So it's important to get it right. And then the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Well, who would be Isaac then? Because isn't his son Jacob and Esau? But if Isaac and Jacob and Abraham have the same God, then that's the same God that I'm talking about. It's the Heavenly Father in spirit. So they would know that God. They know that when the Son of God is revealed, the Son of God is going to know and prove that he is the Son of God only, like the only begotten Son through spirit, not birth, not blood, just through spirit. And that was, if that doesn't happen, then the Bible doesn't, the Antichrist rules and whatever. But the Son of God would have to be proven that he came from the Spirit of God, which is the God of Jacob, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the God of Jacob would have to be Isaac's God. Oh, well, it's been a while. If I could just push him towards it to keep his feet down. Sorry, Bowie. Bowie, it's okay. It's okay, Bowie. It's okay, bud. It's okay. It's okay. It's been a while. What was I saying? The God of Isaac, Jacob, and then the dog started having a seizure. It's been like a month since he had one. I was kind of surprised they didn't keep getting them. Let's see. Did he pee anywhere? No. It's okay, Bowie. You're almost done anyway. You're 10 years old. What do you got? 5 more years left? You can stop being tortured by this. What's going on here? Everything's always about timing. It's like certain topics I'll talk about on YouTube, and certain people will say something at that exact moment which ties into what it means. Because then it would be Isaac is Jacob's father, and he's also Esau's father, but Esau doesn't have the same God, obviously. Doesn't have the same God as Abraham, the father of many nations. And then Abraham comes across Melchizedek, and I think he gives him 1/10 of something of everything. Because then I was thinking, Jacob, are you really only like 30 years old behind that 51-year-old bodysuit? And is Stephen James and Sean really your father? Good boy. Little woozy. But maybe not even the actual son. Boy. Come on. Maybe not. You know how the system is? Like there's a father, and then Abraham begot Isaac, and then how the line goes, and then Isaac begets Jacob, and then Jacob begets somebody else who along the lines. But to make the three of them, the God that is the same one that I've been saying is my God, which is a spirit in heaven, then that would mean that regardless, if Jacob is the real deal, then I'll find out that in the end, that was true. It's his God is the same as his father Isaac's, because Isaac represents Christ, and Christ represents from the seed of David. If you want to look at it in the literal form, one person playing it all the way through. But it would also be a King Nebuchadnezzar came from the north, so if Stephen James is that character, because he's coming down and he has to live basically like with the beast of the earth, and it doesn't seem like Steve Ben-Nun is really hurting for subscribers or recognition, or he knows military, he knows the government, he has secret service agents and in Washington, he has connections at the CIA. Steve has no lack of recognition for what he's doing. Stephen James, on the other hand, he's kind of like like Nebuchadnezzar. He has to live down here for 7 years. The beast of the earth. I winded up finishing the floor, scraping all that stuff up. The clear's still drying. It didn't turn out too bad considering all the chips everywhere. The coats kind of cover it up, and then I'm gonna paint the garage door black and then the bottom area black. It'll give it like a better baseboard look to it. And then it's more of a little gathering area as well. I made that before I even moved in this house. I think 11 years ago. I think I made that at Nemeril Street. Destruction of that. Roma. I didn't know at the time, right in Center City, Philadelphia. And then the pineal gland. Seen a guy at Home Depot today. He had a scar in the back of his head, like from top to bottom. And right in the back portion, it seemed like, man, what if he was someone that had already died and he's in another body? Or they took his brain out and just plugged it into the back of his neck. Because he really didn't have a bad scar either, and he was bald. So, you can really fool people with that. So what was I saying? Before I was interrupted. Hey, Bogums. You get your marbles back? Yeah, so that's how I start to think these things out loud. Because I only say it because of things I've been given. It's not like people are going to be upset at me. Like, Robin, how dare you accuse me of being Jacob Israel? Wait a minute. I did say I was Jacob Israel, right? Well, not the Jacob in the Bible. Well, are you? If so, your father would be Isaac. But you said you didn't know your father. Oh, that's right. The role where Daniel comes to Belshazzar and the writings on the wall. And because that's also similar. You okay? Let's put this here in case he falls off again. Oh, Belshazzar. The writings on the wall. And because your father, King Neb, in the beginning, he was on, like he knew from the beginning a long time ago. And there is a lot of times where Jacob says, "Did you hit the like button? We got to get 1,000 likes." 1,000 of my lords? Maybe so. 1,000 of my lords. And then Daniel is, the night that he's slain, he doesn't die. It's not like a literal killing. But the night he's slain, Daniel gets promoted to third in charge that day. And even though he said keep your gifts, they still gave him the chain and the robe. Maybe that's like the same thing as Pilate, and then handing him over, and then they put the robe and the crown of thorns around his head. So Pilate being like Elon, and Elon being like Lucifer's son. So if Elon was Lucifer's son, then I've struggled between who's representing Lucifer on earth. Is it Stephen James Shawn, or is it Jonathan Kleck? Or is it both? Because there's two cabals. One of them's interpreted this way, the other one's interpreted that way. And then really Lucifer is tied together with being the same as Christ, because the bright morning star and the son of the dawn, it's the same thing. They're both light bringers. So you could look at it as twin system, where there would be two twins. One of them would be Lucifer, the other one's Jesus. And maybe it's Jonathan and Stephen James Shawn, Jesus and Lucifer. But then which one is Moses? Because they both struck a rock. Steve struck a rock, and he's been wrestling ever since. And then Jonathan Kleck struck that rock when I was standing at 17th and JFK, and water gushed out of it out of nowhere for the first time all year. So that was pretty coincidental timing. So back to Elon. If he's playing out the Belshazzar role, if the writing is on the wall, if his father is King Nebuchadnezzar, and because there's King Nebuchadnezzar all at the same time. King Neb, Darius. I know Steve acts like he's Darius because Gematria says it, but again, diversions. King Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, Cyrus, I think they're all at the same time. They're all here now. And then Trump is representing Cyrus. But Trump would also be considered Paul, because I've heard that a lot. Paul is Saul. And so if Trump's coming back, it's kind of like Trump loses everything and then he comes back. And I don't know. I mean, does Stephen James lose everything? Is he going to come back? Or is that Jonathan Kleck coming back with his YouTube channel, getting reinstated after the tables turn? There's just so many similarities that I have to speak them out loud in order to just know that, look, I may be right with one of them. I just don't know which one. So I'll say them both. Or maybe even 3 different routes of Paul and Saul. Because if Steve, I probably had it right the first time. I even wrote Steve 7-page letter 4 years ago saying, I think you're Paul in the Bible, and if not, then whatever. I'm just saying. And so if he's representing Saul, then his son Jonathan, wouldn't that tie in with King Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar? Or was that his grandfather? Was it his father? I think it was his father, or his predecessor. But either way, Jacob has that channel where he can reach many people. So he could be the brother or the son. And then his responsibility is to feed the sheep and stop denying. Go feed the sheep. If you love Christ, go feed them. How do you do that? Well, you make it known who you're trolling nonstop, and who who you do a lot of your shows after. Like, wouldn't it be great, Jacob, if Elon Musk would just admit who he's, the YouTube channel that has influenced him the most? Is that such a terrible thing to give someone credit on YouTube for inspiring you? I mean, I don't think so. So that would be telling the truth. That would be feeding the sheep. It's like, you know what? Because I name drop everybody. I give you all the credit in the world. I'm very kind to you, and because God told me to be faithful to Jacob, like be faithful to him. Whether Jacob Israel is playing the role of Jacob, his father, and because his father is really wrestling with God, and maybe it's not even the right spirit, but communication creates that spirit. So I just have to have faith in what I've been doing, because if not, I've been wasting my time. But I also know there's still games being played and tricks, but they're all going to be, in the end, it'll be over. So, but in the meantime, I'm just speaking things out loud because I just don't know. I don't know everything. I've been trying to learn everything. And then Derek Bros said that he said the Antichrist. He said somebody's going to rise up as the Antichrist in charge, meaning the one in place of Christ. And wouldn't that be Belshazzar? Because after all, Daniel represents Christ. He was the one promoted. He was the one that was respected. He was the one that had an excellent spirit. All the kings went to him to interpret dreams. They asked him to tell them what's happening with the things that are going on. So when someone is in place of, it doesn't always necessarily mean that that person is the enemy of Christ. The Antichrist is someone that's in place of Christ. Now, maybe in the beginning there was an Antichrist, because weren't all of you? Isn't that what you came after me for, as much as you can, to get to, as the punching bag, to get it all out of your system, and then you just drifted off and faded away, and some of you are still there. I haven't stopped for 5 years and almost 6 years. I think another 4 months, is it? November, 5 months. 6 years of just absolutely for free. Because I know everybody that I've been talking to is reciprocating it back and forth at times when I need it to keep me going. Because if not, if I didn't feel like I was talking to the people that run this entire planet, guess what? Do you think I'd still be up right now? Do you think I'd be saying the most ridiculous things that sound out loud to people, even though I know it's true? I know it's true. I say things that I know in my heart is true to me. If it's not actually true, well, it's still true in my heart. So I'll tell you what the truth is. I don't know all the positions of everybody that I've come across, but I'm learning, because I truly believe that Stephen James DeShawn has been converted. There's no question about it. Or I wasted 5 years of my life not knowing in the beginning this is what was going on, but now that when I observe it, yeah, Steve knows who God is. Absolutely. And Steve Ben-Nun also knows who God is. No question. So, Jonathan Kleck, well, at least the one of them seems like it, because you have been communicating through him, and I've been communicating through him as well. So if you don't know him, or but again, there's in the system Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. but who's the in place of? There's somebody that's in place of playing a dual role, kind of taking somebody else's role. Because the one beast is getting all those to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. So with Stephen James DeShawn's head being wounded, the corporation, everything he did coming against me, and I'm still here, and I've just exposed everything I can, and doing it with some humor, getting him to laugh a lot that he probably never laughed before. And he was doing skits and stuff. So my confidence level with Stephen James being converted is high. Not that it's not like, you guys never knew who God was. If you're Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, well, you obviously know who he is. So in the end, that's why it was hard to take Jacob serious, because he does these meatball he calls himself a meatball or a meathead. No, I'm a meatball. I'm just a meatball. But what I do is I evaluate things and I say, well, let me look at it like this. Does he know what's coming? Absolutely. How does he know that? Well, because either one, he's a prophet, or two, he has the script and he's writing it. He has part to do with writing it. So I'll lean towards that part. So that means he knows what's going on. And he's going to keep showing us the thing. He may even get more bold and then just tell you everything that's going to happen the next day, and it just starts happening and happening and happening. But I'll be right there too, predicting things as well. Legitimately, because I don't have a script. But, it just reminds me of the Saul and Jonathan role also. Because the Saul and Jonathan role would be like King Nebuchadnezzar and his, and then Belshazzar, because it says your father. You may have been hanging around, because I think even your Belshazzar's wife told him about Daniel. Your father had always respected him. Maybe you didn't know him as a new pharaoh or something. And then it's the same thing with Pilate's wife saying, don't have nothing to do with that just man. So it's the same thing with Daniel, with Belshazzar's wife telling him, basically, there's a guy there that can interpret what you're doing and saying. So go to him and you'll be slain in spirit. And then your God will be the same as his. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So if you're the real deal, Jacob, it'll come through. It'll happen the way it's supposed to. And if you're not the real deal, that'll come into fruition too. It'll all happen according to plan. Or someone could have the script and they may think it's going to go in their direction in an evil way, but then none come to his help. So none come to his help in the end, because they went to the legit spirit that wasn't scripted. But at the same time, everybody learns who the real God is, and it's a spirit in heaven, and it's what makes mountains move. So yeah, let me know. Am I on to it, or? Because if people say that Abraham is their father, well, then they would do the works that Abraham does. What works are they? And then Isaac in the system represents Christ. See, I always look at it as Isaac representing Christ in the Old Testament. And then Christ is doing the same thing in spirit, like fulfilling it in spirit after rising from the dead. So hopefully soon the Bible can be interpreted correctly and we can all understand it easily.